And hello, everybody. Welcome to Shadow at Night. This is Wednesday, August the 28th, 2024. It's been a busy day on the show tonight. A former 27-year veteran of school boards in British Columbia, specifically Chilliwack School Board, Barry Neufeld, who has to face a human rights tribunal in the next few weeks because of something he did, something he said. He joins the show tonight with some interesting background into what's going on there. Many people already have messaged me in the last half hour, 45 minutes, saying this is going on near me. I'm very interested in what's going on. So you guys hang on just a few minutes. Barry is going to join the show in less than 5 minutes, probably closer to 2 minutes. So that's coming up tonight. Also, farmers hit the streets in Kitchener, Ontario. That's probably going to hit the all access portion of the show tonight in the extension after 9 o'clock Central. Tractors, trailers, all kinds of heavy industrial farm equipment on the streets of Kitchener today, protesting the land takeover. They actually are trying to expropriate active farmland in the Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge region now. And farmers are fighting back this way. So we have some video of that we're going to play for you, and all kinds of other stuff coming up on the show tonight, which is brought to you by Canada Nano Silver. CanadaNanoSilver.ca if you're looking for retail locations. A lot of people don't like shopping online. They want to shop in person. And so there are retail locations scattered all across the country. There's over 30 of them, as a matter of fact. If you'd like to become a retailer, we'll tell you how in just a second. All kinds of awesome products made with the power of silverceutical technology and, of course, all natural, including the facial serum, the immune gummies. You hear me talking about those all the time. The naked bandage, the nano silver gel pump, natural sinus relief. That's a relatively new product. Recover muscle cream, silver lozenges. The silver moisture sprayer is available. Skin cream in multiple scents and no scent at all. The tooth gel and the toothpaste in multiple flavors, including bubbleberry for the kids and the winter mint toothpaste as well. Check out all the fantastic products at CanadaNanoSilver.ca, CanadaNanoSilver.ca. And if you'd like to become a retailer of these great products yourself, get a hold of Kevin and Anna through the contact tab at CanadaNanoSilver.ca. All right. Hellos. Who's watching tonight? Leonard is watching from Altona. Hello, Leonard. Welcome to the show tonight. Don't forget to like and share. Let's get this out to as many people as we possibly can. Mimi is watching in Austinfeld. Chuck, hello. Watching in the crime capital of Canada, Kamloops, British Columbia. I didn't know that. Tony is watching in Calgary tonight on X. Wayne and Patty are watching on X tonight. Sherry is watching on X in Winnipeg. Hello, Heather. Also watching on X in Calgary. Kathy is watching in Florenceville, New Brunswick tonight. Linda in Waterloo. Linda, I know Kitchener and Waterloo are separate cities, and if you say the Tri-Cities, people get upset, very upset at you in that area. So you're either from Kitchener, Waterloo, or Cambridge. You're from Waterloo, but were you anywhere near Kitchener today? Did these tractors come into Waterloo also? I'm very interested. Again, we do have video of that farmers' protest to play for you a bit later on in the show. Debbie is watching tonight on Facebook from Oak Bank. And Vicky is watching in Nova Scotia. Rumble, it's the usual crowd tonight. We've got Vilma, Tammy, Notable, World Peace, Mama Lee, M. Zeaton, Lexus 400H, Climmers, Winston Smith, Miss Kitty, Esky Dogs, Patricia 0711. If you guys are watching on Rumble tonight, hit the share button beneath the screen. That highlights the URL above the screen. And then you can copy and paste into your favorite location, group, whatever, email. Let's get it out to as many people as we possibly can. And again, don't forget to like and share. If you're watching on, well, YouTube, smash the like button. If you're watching on Facebook, it's a like and share. It's a repost and a heart on X. Telegram, we're on tonight as well. And, of course, shadowdavis.com. Barry Neufeld is our guest tonight. Barry, thank you for coming on the show on short notice. I actually got a Facebook message from an acquaintance of yours in BC telling me all about your case earlier today, and I went, wow, he'd be an interesting character to have on the show based upon what he's been through. And so you had some free time tonight. I had an opening. Here you are. Welcome to the show, and thank you for coming on.
Well, thanks for making room for me. This is a real honor.
Yeah. So listen, Barry, can you tell us, you're a 27-year school trustee veteran. You're also a former probation officer in the Chilliwack region. Can you tell me exactly how all of this unfolded? Go right back to the beginning, if you would.
Well, it was summer of 2017 when I heard about a parent information night about this new SOGI sex ed program. I knew nothing about it, even though I had been on the school board for over 20 years at the time. And when I went to hear about it, I thought, this is crazy. Boys can change into girls, girls can change into boys, and all the explicit sexual materials they were going to be giving to kids. I had labored for most of my career working with special needs kids. A lot of kids on probation are foster kids. They're angry kids. They cut themselves, they drug themselves, they gorge themselves. And I had never heard of a transgender kid before, but all of a sudden, they just seemed to come out of the blue. Well, I discovered that activists had implemented this in public schools and had already been in place for a year. And none of the elected trustees in British Columbia had been made aware of it because they knew it would probably be controversial and they wanted to get it really established before they rolled it out. So I found out about it on August 29th. It was to be rolled out across the province on the 3rd of September.
Barry, can I interrupt for just a second and ask how they managed to get this implemented into the school system without the knowledge of the school trustees?
It was actually it was a Liberal Minister of Education, Mike Bernier, had a daughter in grade 7 who came out as lesbian, and he asked her what he could do to make the schools better, and she said that they needed a better anti-bullying program that was specifically designed for gay kids. So he turned to a private organization, the ARC Foundation. Now, this was a LGBT charity that the only thing that they had accomplished prior was the the queer the queer movie festival, and they got together with a few activists, with one um, principals seconded from the public school system, and they created this wide-ranging program called SOGI 123. And the Minister of Education um, allowed them to implement it in pilot schools across the province. I think initially there were 7 pilot schools, and by the time I found out about it, they were ready to roll it out into every grade from kindergarten to grade 12.
So
And
obviously, you have educated yourself a great deal on Soji 123. We had somebody come on talk about it a couple of weeks ago. Can you give us your take on what this is? It's not actually a program or a class. It's more of an ideal that they try to infuse into all of the subjects in school, correct?
well, it was rolled out as a learning resource so teachers can know how to deal with gay and gender diverse kids and make them feel more welcome and included in their classrooms. But it has developed into much more than that. The 3 numbers are very significant. Um, SOGI 1 is an all inclusive environment. It's very ambitious. They want to make the whole school environment welcoming to uh, children who are different. Number 2 is the policies. Um, it's not just learning resources, it's policies that make the schools more amenable to um, sexual minorities. And the third one, of course, is the curriculum. Uh, they call it learning resources, but the learning resources are so vast and expansive. It's a whole curriculum, and it's taken over um, the attention and devotion of our educators. Schools, I believe, are supposed to be about increasing academic achievement in math, in science, in reading and writing. Those scores have been going down in the last few years while the schools have been so um, passionately focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, which are the 3 driving forces behind SOGI 123.
It's
Uh,
also based on critical theory, critical race theory, critical sex theory, whatever have you, and intersectionality, obviously, as well.
yeah, that
So,
all fits in together.
Yeah. So when you first found out about this, did you take time to study it and to know it before you spoke out? You seem like that
Yeah,
kind of a guy.
I spent the month of September looking into it, and the more I found out about it, the more I thought, I can't be part of this. If this is where the direction public education is going, I can no longer be an advocate for public education. On October 13th, our school board met with our two um, members of the Legislative Assembly. And the reason we're meeting with them is that our schools were crowded and we had too many portables and we needed them to build more schools. So we spent a morning breakfast discussing that. And at the end of the meeting, they said, "Is there anything else?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I just recently found out about this SOGI 123 program that's being implemented in the schools. And I find it so controversial. I don't think I can stay on the school board as long as they're pushing this." Well, only one other trustee knew what I was talking about. And the superintendent knew what I was talking about because the Ministry of Education had told all the superintendents to implement this quietly without making a big public display of it because they knew it was going to create some controversy. And so we left the meeting. And like I said, the other trustees, except for one, didn't know what I was talking about. And one of
Were
the
they
MLA,
at least curious, Barry? Were they like, what is Soji 123? What is that? Or did they just kind of shrug it off?
they kind of shrugged it off.
Mm, yeah.
And one of the MLAs pulled me aside afterwards and he said, "Barry, you've got to stand up against this. You can't just quit." So that was October 13th. 10 days later, I made a blurt on Facebook. I said, "People who transition children are guilty of child abuse." And from that point on, my life has been absolute hell. I was ripped apart in the national media. I've been to court well over 8 times. Um, this is now the third appearance before the BC Human Rights Tribunal, and they've scheduled a full 3 weeks to tear me apart. They have been creeping everything I've done online and everything I've written for the last 6 years. They've accumulated over 3,000 pages of incriminating evidence against me, and they're determined to prove that I'm guilty of hate speech simply because I exercise my democratic right to question a learning resource that is being foisted upon our youngest and most vulnerable students.
You have a history of working with young people. Your years as a probation officer show that you specialized in working with troubled kids, correct?
That's right. My specialty was sex offenders, and when a probation officer is an assistant to the judge, a judge has an offender before him, and he wants an assessment, a report to figure out how he can best deal with the problem that this person presents. So a probation officer is then appointed to investigate the social background, the educational background, and everything that's going on in this person's life and recommend a sentence that not only will protect the public, but hopefully help the person. And many of the children that I dealt with as a probation officer were also foster children. These are kids who are angry and they cut themselves, they drug themselves, they gorge themselves, um, and they've
And
got
now
all these problems.
they
Now
trans
they've got
themselves.
that's a new option that wasn't available when I retired in 2008 as a probation officer.
So what, Barry, is happening with these kids um, undercover? Because in BC, I understand that kids and schools don't have to tell parents what their kids are up to when it comes to even surgery and uh, all of these gender blocking drugs and the surgeries. Even, I mean, can kids go ahead in BC and get this surgery without parental consent?
Well, I know that kids can socially transition without letting their parents know. They have closets at school, so if a little girl wants to pose as a boy, She can leave the house dressed like a little girl. She gets to school and there's a closet where she can change into her boy clothes. Um, Teachers and even educational assistants have taken students to clinics to get puberty blockers and hormone therapy. Um, I don't. I am aware of at least one 14-year-old girl who managed to get a mastectomy without her parents knowing about it or approving it, and I'm sure there are many others.
Do you know what the process is when these educational aides or even teachers take these kids to these gender clinics? Like, do they go in there, or is there a questionnaire? Is there a process, a time span before they're allowed to go ahead and start taking these drugs?
One of the things that the transgender activists are really strong about is that they don't want any gatekeeping. They believe that if the child says they feel they're born in the wrong body, we have to believe them. And, you know, kids aren't old enough to get tattoos, driver's licenses. They can't vote, they can't drink, but they know enough about their bodies that they can make irreversible decisions. And the other thing is that this is so undermining of parental influence. Even if a child doesn't want to transition, and even if they're straight, like they don't want to become gay or transgender, they go along with this ideology. And if their parents think there's something wrong with it, the, the kid will be alienated from their parents and go to the teacher and say, "Oh, my parents are such homophobes and transphobes." And there have been cases of children who have been removed from homes where parents don't enthusiastically support this very negative ideology.
You were mentioning a case like that on the telephone this afternoon of a man who hasn't seen his children in what, 5 years now?
Yes, it's the case of ABCD. 14-year-old girl had all sorts of trouble at school, and they finally took her to the children's hospital. And the child psychiatrist there, or psychologist, Dr. Wallace Wong, decided to put her on testosterone. And unfortunately, the father and the mother were separated at the time. The mother was present, but the father found out about it later. He tried to stop the testosterone treatment by going to court, and the court did not agree with him. The judge told him that his child was no longer a girl if he referred to his child as a boy, and uh, if he referred to his child as a girl instead of a boy, that was an act of domestic violence. He tried to complain to the media, to people like you. He was accused of breaching the gag order, and he was thrown in jail for 6 months for speaking out against a judge who had ordered a father to lie about his own daughter. She
Um,
has been on testosterone long enough. She now has a beard. We don't know if she's had a mastectomy because he hasn't seen her for 5 years.
and there are other cases like this that we hear
Yes.
about. Do you believe, because you've rubbed up against these activists, they have haunted you online, even in person?
Yes.
And you know, these activists, I mean, they are what they are, but when it comes to the judges, when it comes to the teachers, when it comes to people who are supposed to be in a position of great responsibility, you've seen these people, you've been through these human rights tribunals before, you've been to court before, you were mentioning. Do you get the impression that these people are acting against their will? That they actually, or that they actually believe all of this malarkey? Because that's what it is. Any common sense person can see it.
Well, my case went all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada. Um, I initially went on the offensive and sued the president of the union for defamation because he said I wasn't fit to be around children. Well,
This
when
is
you
the
spent
president of the Chilliwack Teachers Association, correct?
president of the British Columbia Teachers Association, Glenn
Oh,
Hansman,
okay. Okay.
because the Chilliwack Teachers Association doesn't have enough money to field this huge battle against me. It's being bankrolled by the 50,000 member BC Federation of Teachers. Anyways, went all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada, and the 6 judges that ruled against me said it was okay for him to insult me because he was trying to protect a very marginalized group of children who have suffered a lot. Well, in reality, I'm the one that's trying to protect those children, because those children are going to grow up, and most of them are going to regret their choice of lifestyle and their loss of body parts. And it was very, very clear that all 6 judges that voted against me were recent appointees by Justin Trudeau. We live in a country that is a tyranny. Justin Trudeau has got his finger in every pie. When I first sued Glenn Hansman for defamation, he countersued with an anti-SLAPP application, and we got put in front of a judge who had been only on the bench for a week and had been specifically appointed by Justin Trudeau to try and sink Barry Neufeld. And he ruled that Glenn Hansman had the right to insult me. So he took it to the appellate court. This time we got 3 seasoned judges, and they agreed that it was a dark day for free speech if a president of a huge union could shut down one lonely school trustee because he disagreed with the union position. So they upheld my right to sue Hansman. Well, he had bottomless pockets, and so he took me all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada, and he managed to persuade the 6 activist judges there that he's a great savior of transgender children, and because of that, he's allowed to try and ruin somebody's reputation and insult them and put them down. I lost that case, and I probably will have to pay the legal bills, which is approaching $250,000.
How has this affected you personally? And I'm not talking about financially, I'm talking about spiritually, emotionally. I mean, this has got to be terribly tough. No, because what you just alluded to, Justin Trudeau has got his fingers in every pie. He's trying to turn this into some kind of weird Marxist, left wing, totalitarian rainbow uh, dictatorship. But when you lose a Supreme Court challenge like that, there's absolutely no recourse. That's the law of the land now. I mean, that's got to, and it's absolutely wrong, obviously. How do you respond to that?
Well, in my public discourse, I don't get into religious discussion very often, but I will say that my faith is what keeps my spirits up when everything goes wrong. And I sincerely believe that this transgender movement is a spiritual battle. If your kid becomes transgender, you're probably never going to have any grandchildren. And it's not going to be won by lawyers. It's not going to be won by politicians, even though Premier Daniel Smith in Alberta is making some real headway there. And it's not even going to be won by medical doctors. And British doctor Hilary Cass has certainly put the brakes on it in England. But Canada continues to refuse to accept her findings and continues to push ahead. And it's just amazing what they're getting away with and how many lives they're ruining. And it's because I believe I'm doing the right thing that I am able to keep my spirits up. And back in February, I had government lawyers were covered by my indemnity insurance, and they were preparing for this human rights tribunal. And they came to me in February and they said, Barry, the Chilliwack Teachers Association is willing to settle out of court. I said, well, what do they want? Well, first of all, they want a public apology that you were wrong all along. Secondly, they want you to promise that you'll never run for public office ever again. And thirdly, they want you to take sensitivity training so you understand what transgender is all about. And finally, they want you to pay $50,000 to a gay charity. But they said, don't worry about the $50,000. Your insurance will cover that. Just agree to this and the whole thing will go away. I said, well, I'll think about it. So I thought about it for a few days. I talked to my pastor and he said, well, who are you apologizing to? And I said, well, they claim that I'm a danger to teachers, but they don't give me any names of who feels threatened by me. He said, well, if you don't have any names, there's no need to apologize. And I said, I've studied this thoroughly over the last 6 years, and there's no 3-hour sensitivity training program that can change my mind that this is good for children. I believe it's damaging children, and my mind isn't going to change. I said, school teachers don't have the right to tell me that I can't run for public office. I'm not really interested in running for public office at my age. I'm 76 years old. And finally, even if the money isn't mine, I don't want any organization getting $50,000 if they're going to use that to persuade kids to damage their bodies. So that's what I told my lawyers. I said, no, I'm not settling. We're going to the tribunal. Well, within 2 days, I got a message from the insurance company, and they said, we believe that you refused a very reasonable offer. And because you're so unreasonable, we're cutting you off. You're on your own. We're not paying for your lawyers anymore. And that was in early March. And for about 3 months, I tried to find another law firm that was willing to go to bat for me. One said that they would do it for $150,000 retainer, but they said I'd still probably lose. I went to two others that are known for taking on charitable pro bono cases, and they both turned it down. They said, no, it's too much for us to handle. So I'm on my own. I have an activist lady, a woman by the name of Carrie Simpson, who's going to be assisting me. Unfortunately, I've been trying to get a hold of her all day, and she's probably back in court helping some other poor soul. But yeah, I'm heading into this without any legal representation, and they're determined they're going to destroy me.
Harry, when they say that you're a danger, are they talking about specifically to one group? And how do they define danger exactly?
Well, I make them feel uncomfortable and unhappy. Um, they have come up with 4 witnesses, but they insist that their names be kept anonymous. I happen to know that 3 of them are lesbians, and only one of them is a transgender person. So, for them to cause me so much grief because I hurt the feelings of one transgender teacher is kind of overkill. As far as for lesbians, I
Wait, wait,
have
wait. How did you hurt anybody's feelings? Just by speaking your opinion? That's what you've done?
yes, because I'm denying the existence of transgender people, and that hurts their feelings.
But how does that make you dangerous? I mean, how is that a danger? Danger to me is something that's going to hurt me physically, quite possibly put me in the hospital or even kill me. I mean, words, sticks and stones. Remember that? We were growing up with that. Sticks and
Yeah,
stones may
but
break my bones.
that's old fashioned. We don't believe that anymore. Words are more can hurt more than sticks and stones, and
I see.
that's why we have the word police out there.
So rather than standing up and making their argument, they would rather just try to bankrupt you, humiliate you, and vanish you from the face of the planet. Have you been intimidated in any way outside of these tribunals?
You know,
And
it's
I
it
don't mean that you feel intimidated. Have they tried to intimidate you? Because I don't think that you scare easy.
well, the mainstream media have tried to show up on my doorstep a couple of times. I'm lucky in that they haven't shown up at my door or yelling and screaming. Some of my friends and supporters who have spoken out loudly have put up with people driving by and throwing garbage and dog poop in their yard. Um, That hasn't happened to me. Um, I think they're going to be a little careful about me trying to persecute me because it might come back to backfire on them. But the biggest thing they were doing is trying to totally bury my story. I can't get any of Canada's Marxist media to cover me at all. They're all scared because if they sound like they're sympathetic to Barry Neufeld, they could be accused of transphobia and they could be canceled and shut down and um,
It's ridiculous. You know, yesterday or the day before, Mark Zuckerberg came out and admitted that he is culpable in censorship based upon intimidation from the Biden White House and certain alphabet agencies in the United States. And so, knowing that, what we can say now is if, and that's against the First Amendment, by the way, in the United States of America. So, knowing that, that kind of takes away any sort of cancel culture from the Marxists, right? I mean, if they're not going to be censoring anymore on all of the big social media platforms, then you can't be canceled. We know that Elon Musk is not doing that. We know that you can still get videos up on Rumble and even YouTube if you play the right game. So if they're trying to erase you, I don't think they're going to be very successful with it. And I don't think the Marxist corporate media should be too scared of getting canceled. But let me give you a warning about trying to get involved with them at all. Chances are good, and we talked about this on the phone this afternoon, that if they do cover your story, they will take the Marxist side and they'll
yeah.
make you look like an even bigger villain than they've already painted you as. So you really have to watch out. You've got another tribunal coming up in a few weeks. This is a new one now, or is this a replay of one of the old ones?
This is a continuation of the Chilliwack teachers complaint. It's starting on October 21st. Do you know, out here in British Columbia, we have four political parties, and the NDP were um, great fans of the SOGI 123. The premier has said that I'm disgusting. The minister of education said that I should resign. There's all sorts of people that have insulted me. But in the run up to the election, the conservatives have now passed the NDP, and the conservatives have said they're going to do away with SOGI 123. And just today, they announced Kevin Falcon, the leader of the BC United Party, has announced that they're going to disband the party. So that just leaves it between the NDP, the Conservatives, and the Greens. It looks like we're going to have a Conservative government on October the 19th who's committed to doing away with SOGI 123. And then my tribunal starts 2 days later on October 21st. That's an interesting coincidence. You know,
Isn't it?
getting back to Mark Zuckerberg, a lot of my friends, have tried to put controversial posts on Facebook, and they've been shut down and banned from posting for 30 days or whatever. And that's never happened to me. And I've said some pretty strong things on Facebook. But the Chilliwack teachers have screenshot everyone and saved them in this monstrous binder. Um, over 600 pages of my Facebook screenshots that they're using as evidence against me. This is why I can't get any lawyers willing to represent me. There's too much
Because
work.
they see that big binder and they go, "Oh my God, there's no way." And it's 600 pages, but you don't strike me as the kind of a guy who calls names or disparages people. It's basically facts that you're throwing up there, right?
That is, and I'm opposed to an educational resource, not any person's.
So there's no personal insults. There's nothing they can get you with in that regard.
I made one slip up once. I was getting such a bad treatment by a local reporter from the local rag that in a comment once I referred to him as a retard. That came back to bite me because parents of special needs children came back and they gave me heck over that. I should have called him an idiot or an imbecile, but unfortunately, I chose the wrong word that was politically incorrect.
So Barry, you You talked about a possible conservative government in British Columbia, which would be a great thing. There's a lot of people who watch this show, and I'm one of these people who believes that, yeah, it would be better to have a conservative government than a liberal or NDP government because we know what they're doing. We can see it when they're in power. Trudeau, EB, Wab Canoe in Manitoba here, wherever they happen to be, they just get on a freight train towards Marxism. The conservatives may be heading that direction themselves based upon the infiltration of the party, but it would be a much slower trip, right? So
Yeah.
that's something that we can hopefully depend on. But what aside from a conservative government being voted in, what can we do to try and remove these people who have infiltrated the institutions of this country? I mean, you talk about the Supreme Court, Justin Trudeau's appointments, we talk about the human rights commissions all across the country, whether they're provincial or federal or municipal. I mean, they are infiltrated with all of these Marxists. And when I say Marxist, you guys, I'm talking about woke. That is the same thing. Those two words in 2024 are interchangeable. Where do we even begin with this, in your opinion?
Well, the one thing that has always discouraged me in my 27 years on the school board is a lot of elderly people think that what happens on public schools has no effect on them and they don't even bother to vote. And for that reason, over the years, school trustees have been primarily very progressive left wing ideologues. And a lot of them have their eyes on higher offices. Some have gone on to their provincial government and some have gone on to run for office in Ottawa. But, I tell these elderly people, I say, sooner or later, you're going to be in Shady Acres old folks home. And these young kids that are in school right now are going to be coming along and they're going to be changing your diapers and they're going to be spoon feeding you. And you want to make sure that these kids have been taught to respect and care for you because right now there's such a backlash against um, cisgender, straight, um, people who believe in family values, people who are religious. Their school kids are being taught to hate these so much. And the last time I visited my stepmother in the old folks' home, she's 94, but all the young staff there, I could tell that they had all just recently graduated from high school. They were products of the education system. And all of our citizens need to be worried about what's going on in our education system. Um, they need to know how to do math so they can build bridges that won't fall down. They need to read and write so they can write uh, articles in the newspaper that are truthful and make sense. And um, education is important for our future, uh, not only the future of our kids, but also the future of our elderly as they near the end of the life. We need well educated people looking after them.
Barry, how much support do you have from the people in your community?
From my own community, um, I've lost a lot of friends and I've gained a lot of friends. I've been so thankful for the support that I've got, but I'm getting support from the strangest places: Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Cyprus, um, Pakistan, and support has been coming in from all over the world. And uh, it's just not all right wing religious fundamentalists. Um, one of my recent connections was Stu Parker. He was the founder of the BC Green Party, and he has now just totally become appalled at this gender ideology in the schools, and he supports me completely. Um, I've got a friend in Ottawa, Shannon Boshi. He's really into Aboriginal spirituality, and he started up a podcast called The Gender Wars, and like my friend out here in BC, when his daughter was 14, she decided to transition, and when he tried to talk her out of it, she won't have anything to do with him anymore. And she was talked into this ideology by teachers in the Ottawa school system. Um, so people from all across the land and all walks of life have risen up to support me, and I'm so grateful for that.
What about the people who quietly say to you things like, Barry, man, we're on your side. I can't really say anything about it publicly because, I mean, I'll get in trouble. I mean, like, how much of that do you get?
A lot of it. And I recently got an award by the Christian Heritage Party, and I quoted Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a dissident who spoke out against the rise of Nazism in Europe. And he said, to be silent in the face of evil is evil itself. To speak is not to, to not speak is to speak. In other words, if you agree with me but don't do anything about it, that's not helpful at all. You're siding with the enemy by keeping silent.
Your silence is
And
complicity. Yeah.
yeah,
Barry, is there any way we can help you with your costs? Do you have any kind of give, send, go set up? Is there anything that we can do?
um, well, right now, the biggest cost for this human rights tribunal is physically printing off these 3,000 pages of material they've got against me. Um, I can't reimburse Carrie Simpson for her efforts on my behalf. Um, but I do have an upcoming court case coming up. Um, Along with this human rights tribunal, they've been attacking me on other sides. And there's a very uh, sexually libertarian trustee on the Chilliwack School Board by the name of Dr. Karen Bondar. And before she was a trustee, she made a video posing nude in a parody of Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball.
Right,
And
right.
in passing, I mentioned that um, one of the candidates was a striptease artist. And she sued me for defamation, and she won. I couldn't believe it. I could have said a lot worse than a striptease artist.
How
So,
did she
anyways,
how did she
I
win? I mean, there's a video of her doing it.
um,
What do you need?
the judge obviously had been told what to decide by someone higher up. Anyways, I'm raising money for an appeal. I've got about half the money raised, and that appeal will be heard on December the 11th.
So, where can we help you out with that? Again, like, is there something, an email or anything? I know it's difficult asking, but I'm asking you now.
Well, I do have some friends that have recently set up an organization that will there to help me fundraise. We still haven't opened a bank account, but in the meantime, people can help me by e-transferring to Trustee Neufeld at gmail.com. And that's all one word,
Trust.
TRUSTEENEUFELD at gmail.com. And for snail mail, I have box 3002, Cultus Lake Post Office, Cultus Lake, BC.
Okay. I'm going trustee Neufeld at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna throw that up in comments later on. I can't do it right now. Obviously, we're live on the air, but Barry, I want to thank you for coming on the show tonight, telling this story. Is there anything that we have forgotten to mention that you'd like to get out there?
Um, no, I
Funny.
just I want my story to get out there. I want people to realize what kind of a tyrannical country we live in, and that I am at the forefront of fighting this gender ideology. There's a lot of others that are following in my footsteps, but I was the first, and they are determined to harm me the most and scare everybody else off.
You're 76 years old. You should be enjoying retirement from a lifetime of community service and work. And here you are fighting back and uh, having people disparage you and financially try to wreck you. I mean, I have to commend you for standing up and doing this. You're a brave, brave man.
You know, I should be lying on a beach in Tahiti drinking little drinks with umbrellas in them, but
You
here I
should
am.
be. Yeah. Barry, thank you for coming on tonight. And I'm going to be following your court case in your human rights tribunal, and hopefully you will agree to come back on the show and talk more about it when you have the opportunity.
Thanks so much, Shadow. Appreciate being here.
Okay, Barry, thanks again. And we'll get the email out. It's Trustee Neufeld at gmail.com. And that's Trustee, Trustee, Neufeld, Neufeld at gmail.com. If you would like to e-transfer Barry some money to help with his appeal against that alleged striptease school trustee. It's absolutely amazing the things that people have gone through in this country, the court cases that people, the ridiculous court cases that people have had to go through and are still going through. I mean, the Coots guys have been sitting in court, not today. They didn't have court today. They've got court tomorrow, and then their sentencing is going to be on Friday. We're going to try and get Granny Mackay on the show on Friday to talk about that. Now, you heard me say a Friday show. Normally, there is no Friday show, but I thought that it was pretty important that we get at least something on the air Friday in regards to how these two guys are going to be sentenced, Chris Carbert and Tony Olenek, who have still been in lockup now for the past 3 weeks, ever since their verdict came down. And again, sentencing is on Friday. We don't know how it's going to happen. Granny put up a video yesterday talking about how stern the judge appeared in court yesterday, and she didn't take it as a good sign. I didn't quite grasp everything that she was saying in that video. And remember, Granny and others have been in court pretty much every time there has been court supporting these guys. And the last 2.5 years, they've been supporting all 4 of the Coots guys in whatever way they can to try and bring awareness to what's going on, the political prisoners still being held in Canada. Chris Barber is going back to Ottawa to support another member of the Freedom Convoy who is going through a court process this week. And this is something because Chris, he's been in Ottawa enough. He does not want to have to go back there, but his words are this: nobody gets left behind. It's very noble, considering that guy has been put through the ringer, as has Tamara and all of the other people who haven't gotten the notoriety that Chris and Tamara have gotten. And it's difficult to find all of these cases. Even Chris said, I didn't even know about this guy and the problems that he's been having, because some people rather stay on the low key. They don't want all of the publicity. They just want to go through the process and hopefully the best outcomes. But there are times where it's cool to rally support. And, this week, Jeff Evely of Veterans for Freedom has been in court regarding his scuffle with the police a couple of years ago during the Freedom Convoy. I think he's now Patriot Smoothie and Chris Dacey had been doing some stuff the last couple of days. You can find them on Facebook and YouTube and on X for more. But I think Jeff was charged with resisting arrest. And every cop that testified in this case the last couple of days had a different story somehow, a different version of the same story, let's just say. So hopefully Jeff gets a fair shake as well. He's a good man. He is a solid patriot. And if you haven't seen Jeff before, he does the live stream / podcast for Veterans for Freedom, V4F, on all of the social media. You guys want to see something really cool? This is really cool. We'll get to it in just a second. I would like to make an announcement that earlier today, we had to cancel the LaSalle information session on the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region Board's Plan 2050 because of communication difficulties. It had nothing to do with anything else. There's no infighting going on. I mean, there's a lot of speculation. Oh my God, is it more ego-based infighting? No, it was just a communication kerfuffle. There was absolutely no hard feelings. There was no ill will. There was no name calling. There was none of that. It just so happened there was a bit of a communication breakdown. We will be scheduling information sessions. We feel it's important to get the real information about what's contained in this Winnipeg Metropolitan Region Board's Winnipeg 2050 plan, so that you can make informed decisions when you go to your local representative, whether it's a municipal councillor, reeve, mayor, or whether it's your MLA. You need to know what can happen not necessarily will happen, what powers they are giving themselves to make things possible for this board to make arbitrary decisions on your property, on our roadways, on the water system, on all kinds of things, including population density, which they want in this particular area to be 250 people per acre, which is insane. They will be giving themselves the power to arbitrarily expropriate land as well. So we understand, this is not confirmed, but we understand the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region Board is now going to be reworking this plan that they issued and then scheduling a meeting, a hearing, a public information session down the road. But that's not confirmed. So we are keeping our ears to the ground and waiting for them to announce their second public information meeting. But in the meantime, between now and then, we will be getting public information meetings of our own going. It just so happens that the one next week had to be canceled due to communication difficulties and for no other reason. All right, here's something really cool. Farmers have overtaken the streets of downtown Kitchener, Ontario, this evening, protesting the region's attempted land grab of 770 acres of precious farmland for reasons that remain unclear. Didn't they say they wanted to build condos or something? But it's really cool to see tractors rolling through the streets of a major city in Canada. Watch this. Thank you to the Canadian Independent. If you don't follow them on X, go ahead, please do that. The Canadian Independent always providing good video clips from all across the Canada, all across the country, all across the world, actually. Because the beginning of this video got clipped and you missed a couple of seconds, let's do it again. Besides, it's fun, isn't it? Okay, I think a couple of times is enough. I want to go to the comments here and see what you guys are saying. I believe the expropriation was for an EV factory. You know what, Jane? I believe you're right. I got it mixed up. I was remembering condos, but I think that's in the Winnipeg area. Yeah, EV factory. You're right. Yay for farmers, Barb says. Good for the farmers. It's really cool to see this kind of stuff. Do you feel, I'm going to ask you a question right now before we go to the extension on shadowdavis.com for the All Access members. If you're not an All Access member, please go ahead and become one. It's not expensive. You get extra content, at least a half an hour every night, sometimes longer. Sometimes I get a little bit more chatty back there, and we go for an hour sometimes, but usually it's about a half an hour, maybe a little bit longer. Do you get the feeling? I was talking about this with our buddy Jeff Stone the other day from Tacit Investigations and Security. And Jeff was saying, I'm getting this wild vibe. I think things might finally be turning around in our country. And I feel the same way. I had given up on Manitoba. A year ago, I had given up on Manitoba. I thought Manitoba, it's 90% vaccinated. People here are just going along with the program. They're keeping their mouths shut. They're keeping their heads down. They're waiting till this is over. And I think they're starting to understand that it's never going to end until they themselves end it. You could see that with the turnout for that second community meeting regarding the WMR in Niverville a couple of weeks ago. And now more and more and more people want to hear the details of this plan, which does have a lot of involvement regarding the United Nations Agenda 2030. And if it's a local plan, why on earth would it have any of that? Because we know through Kickley, through Maggie Hope Bronze Kickley, that ICLEI, Canada, which is a part of the United Nations, masquerades in this country as the Partners for Climate Protection, who have members all across the country through the Canadian Federation of Municipalities. Over 400 municipalities have signed on to the ICLEI Canada UN 2030 agenda, probably without even knowing it. Your municipality, your town, your city is probably a member and they don't even know it, or they do. All of the major cities are captured, you guys. What surprises me more than anything is that, well, Winnipeg is standing up and fighting back, and not just Winnipeg, but the surrounding area. I'd say more the surrounding area than the actual people inside the city itself. But cities like Calgary are not standing up and doing anything about it. And I might be wrong, but I haven't heard from any of my contacts in Calgary that anybody is standing up against Gondek's plan. And I believe this water main break, this catastrophic water main break that happened in Calgary a couple of months ago, has a lot to do with this. I don't think that was accidental. Again, that's my opinion. That is only my opinion. I don't want anybody thinking that I'm stating fact here when I say that, because I'm not. That is simply my opinion. It just seemed very convenient, is all. Now, there's normies who might be watching this saying, "You're a conspiracy theorist. I can't take you seriously anymore." Bottom line is, when we talk about all of the things that are happening right now and the sequence in which they are happening, it's almost impossible to look back and say that's a coincidence. It's almost impossible to say that. All right, so do you guys get the vibe that things, at least as far as the people are concerned, are turning around in Canada? Are people finally starting to wake up? Doug says Manitoba strong. Michelle says, I live near Kitchener, never heard about this. Wish I'd known, regarding the tractors in downtown Kitchener. Awesome to the farmers. This should happen in every city. Bring out the manure, Chuck says. Let's go, let's go. Time to hit the streets. You know, there's a lot of different ways we can do this, you guys. And it's not necessarily hitting the streets, right? I mean, yeah, I get that. I mean, look, this is awesome. This is awesome. Seeing this, that's an awesome visual display for people to understand and to get their attention. And so maybe once you get their attention, then they will listen to your concerns. That's what that's all about. It's not to inconvenience anybody. It's not to humiliate publicly elected officials or bureaucrats. It's simply to get their attention. But once you have their attention, then you need to schedule meetings. That's where we're at right now in Manitoba, where we're scheduling meetings with elected officials from all of these municipalities, or at least trying to, or bureaucrats for that matter, and we're showing them exactly what's in the plan, because guess what? A lot of them don't even know. A lot of them have no clue because they haven't had any access to it, if you can believe it. This board, this Winnipeg Metropolitan Region Board, is trying to bring this in under cover of night without even their elected municipal governments knowing about it. And they're under orders not to discuss it with anybody who's not on this board. If it's such a great plan, then why don't they want people to talk about it? It's interesting, isn't it? So that's it for the social media part of the show tonight, you guys. We'll continue on with the extension on shadowdavis.com in just a couple of minutes. So if you're a member, I'll see you there in 2 minutes. If not, become one. Go to shadowdavis.com right now and do it. SHADOEDAVIS.com. We'll see you there in a couple of minutes. And if you don't want to do that, I'll catch you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central for another Shadow at Night live stream. I love you all. I appreciate you all. Bye for now, and hello in a couple of minutes.